Chapter 11. Past Grudges. "What do you have there?" Anakin asked as I approached the ship. Seven had retreated back into his holocron, so I didn't have to explain too much too soon. "A Sith holocron," I explained. "Mother Talzin assured me that it would be useful." Anakin looked skeptical. He was more level-headed and open-minded in this timeline, so I wasn't worried about him flying off the handle. But he was still emotional at this point, and his emotions were clear. He didn't like the idea of taking advice from a Sith. "Not sure what we can learn from them." "A great deal, actually," I replied as I looked up at him. "The Sith are masters at channeling their anger, frustration, and desire productively. It makes them extremely capable combatants, and even more capable when making plans. They're decisive decision-makers, relentless at self-improvement, and dogged in their dedication to their goals. Far more than any Jedi. We've learned to pause and reflect before a decision, while trying to adhere to the will of the Force," I continued as I began to make my way up the ship's hangar door. "Sith make split-second decisions with no hesitation, dedicate themselves to it completely, and work from there. They don't let indecision slow them down." "You make them sound virtuous," Anakin said as he followed me into the ship. "They're ambitious," I shrugged. "That ambition drives them to strive for greatness. That greatness can be both productive and destructive. Remember that their ambition allowed them to build an empire and rule most of the galaxy. But that same ambition is what helped to bring that empire down." Anakin looked at me skeptically. "You sound like you admire them." "I can appreciate their achievements without approving of their methods," I replied as I looked up at him. "Remember, both sides of the Force are natural. Neither is inherently good or bad." "I know that, Shorty," Anakin replied playfully. He'd started calling me that out of friendly affection once he'd reached the age of 13 and grown taller than me. "But you're making it sound like you admire the Sith specifically." "Their work ethic and accomplishments," I clarified. "Not their motivations or goals, but they're industrious, focused, and dedicated. More so than most Jedi on average, I'd argue." He shrugged. "If you say so. Are we done here?" I nodded. "Yes, we can return to Mandalore. I'm sure Uncle and Qui-Gon have need of us." "You don't need to bring that to Mother Talzin?" he asked as he pointed at the holocron. "She wanted me to find it and learn from it." "All right, I'll get us on our way," he said as he made his way to the cockpit. "I'll be in my quarters," I called after him. I took the holocron back to my room and enjoyed a few moments of silence before the storm I knew was coming. I couldn't keep Seven's presence hidden from Serena forever, and even if I could, someone was bound to mention him while Serena was active. Once in my room, I set Seven's holocron down on a small side table and activated it. He reappeared in the crimson light of his hologram. "I want you to try and be understanding in the next few minutes," I told him as I pulled Serena's holocron from the location it was stored in. "I think I've shown over the past few lifetimes that I can be understanding," Seven replied. I shot him a look. "You haven't had to confront your past actions the way you might have to in just a moment. So, I reiterate, be understanding." He gave a bow of his head to show his agreement. A touch of my will activated Serena's holocron, and her vibrant sapphire glow pressed against Seven's ruby. She immediately noticed Seven, and her realization of who he seemed to be was evident in her expression, even if she hadn't gasped. "Darth Bane!" "Serena," I tried to get her to calm down. She whirled on me. "Merida, that's Darth Bane. You can't just..." "It's Seven," I blurted out just to focus her aggravation. Serena stared up at me and I watched the emotions flicker across her face. Shock, surprise, anger, sadness, confusion, betrayal. "What?" she whispered as she stared up at me. I motioned to Seven's hologram. Seven was Darth Bane. That is Seven. Serena turned to look at Seven once more. Her body language was rigid and defiant. The last time she'd had anything to do with Seven. "You burned me alive." "I No, you don't," Serena screeched. "I was burned alive by dragonfire. The liquid splashed over me and set every inch of me on fire. Even if it has been 2 seconds, it felt like hours. Do you know what it's like to have every atom of your being light up like the sun? To feel every nerve raging like a tempest? To claw through your own flesh, hoping to whatever power you appeal to, that simply tearing away chunks of your body will stop the pain? Have you felt your body char and crack even as you fight to move? Felt it curl and crumple, fall to the floor as struggle to stand?" "Yes," Seven replied quietly. That simple answer seemed to take the wind from her sails. "Twice now, in fact," Seven continued. He looked up at me. "Both times. By Merida. In our final battle in Thedas. She took me into the Fade, deconstructed my body, and threw my very soul into the ether. And then again, when I betrayed her in the wasteland. She executed me in a blast of radiation. I'm sure it was instantaneous, but it felt like ages." There was an awkward silence between them that Seven broke by continuing. "Your death, while perhaps eventually inevitable in my plans back then, was accidental. That doesn't wipe the act clean, nor does it excuse the act or make the memory disappear. But I do know what it's like. And in my foolishness, my spite, my envy, I visited that hell upon others. I cannot ask the many others who suffered at my hands for forgiveness, but I have the privilege to be able to ask for your forgiveness." "Darth Bane," Serena said, as if Seven being that person was damnation enough to doubt him. Seven nodded. "I realized it early enough. I even considered changing history, doing something else. But I realized that Darth Bane had done the universe a favor." "How so?" Serena asked, doubt dripping from her voice like poison. "He slaughtered the Sith," Seven replied bluntly. "Killed them all but himself and his apprentice. Created the rule of 2. I tore down their empire and shoved them into the shadows, carving the path that would lead to Palpatine." Serena crossed her arms. Seven shrugged. "Do you know what I didn't see in my time as Darth Bane?" Serena sighed. "What?" Seven raised a hand and pointed at me. Any sign of her, not one mention of her in historical texts, not one whisper of her in the galaxy while I walked it. Nothing. What worry could I have about someone like Palpatine when, if Merida had not yet appeared, he would likely have to contend with her in the future? Serena stiffened. "You did all that and just hoped Merida would come along to clean up the mess you prepared for the galaxy?" "If she didn't, Anakin would," Seven countered. "Better to rid the galaxy of the Sith scourge than allow it to continue. Diminish its influence and allow the galaxy to recover. Either way, Palpatine would be dealt with." "He hasn't acted against us since Westeros, Serena," I tried to reassure her. "In fact, he was a great deal of help in Skyrim. He's not the person he was. None of us are." I could feel the existential dread of those words creep in on me. Ever since my first time in the net while I was in Night City, I had realized I was no longer human, or dwarf, or whatever body I inhabited. I wasn't even myself anymore. I was something else entirely removed. There had only been one person that I had confided this knowledge to, and he simply wasn't around. How could I tell my friends or anyone else what was happening to me? They wouldn't be able to relate. And to keep those thoughts at bay, I kept myself busy, with multiple projects going at any given time. The biggest blessing of coming to the Star Wars universe was the mental training that helped me to clear my thoughts and mind. The melancholy only touched me for a moment, but that moment was enough. Serena looked up at me. "Merida, what's wrong?" I pulled the smile I used as a mask back over my expression. "Sorry, Nothing. I just got a little homesick. Saying that reminded me of Farron and how long it's been since I've seen him. Serena's soft spot for me seemed to find the cracks in the armor of frustration she was wearing. Her body loosened, her expression turned sympathetic, and she let out a sigh. I'm sorry. Seeing him against just... I understand, I nodded. I had a similar reaction to seeing him in Night City. And I've spent more time with him since then. He isn't who he used to be, and we've all done wrong by each other in the past. Serena flinched as the memory of her betrayal in the wasteland came back to her. We need to put old grudges aside, I continued. We're all we have through all of these worlds. We can't simply carry that much hate forever. Serena stared at me for several moments before nodding. You're right. I let my feelings take hold of me. It's fine, Seven said. We've all been at odds at one time or another, and I've accepted that it's very much my own fault. So I'm taking each life to make up my mistakes to you all as best I can. This time it would seem we're both playing the role of advisor, considering our circumstances. So I suggest we take time to talk and to help her make the best decisions. Serena's body language was softer now as she slowly accepted the reality of the situation. I suppose that's our only option after all. And Merida's right. We can't simply continue to be at odds throughout all of this. She looked up at me with an expression that begged understanding. Would you mind leaving us alone? I'd like to take time to speak with him at length. I need to get some things off my chest. This is my room, I replied with a chuckle. Oh, please, Serena huffed. You're eager to get into the pilot's seat and fly through space with Anakin. Just go. We'll handle this. I pursed my lips at her observation. I'll thank you not to point such things out in the future. She laughed and smirked. You have the opportunity to fly spaceships and see a galaxy like we already have. Go enjoy yourself. We can be adults about this. Fine, I said as I grabbed both holocrons and slid them closer together. Don't burn the ship down while I'm in it, though. The two of them chuckled as I turned to take my leave. I knew Serena would be the bigger person in the end. She had a need to be seen as the consummate, dignified professional. I wagered that I would hear about her outburst in numerous lives to come. I made my way to the cockpit and slipped into the seat next to Anakin. Everything all right? He asked as he looked at me. It will be, I smiled. Just a wrinkle with the holocron. But I think it will work out for the best in the end. Mother Talzin did us a favor, leading me to it. There's only one real problem that we'll have to deal with. And that is? He gave me a curious look. How my uncle will react to it, I smirked at him. He laughed and grinned. Oh, so we'll get a show then. Better and better. I rolled my eyes and stuck my tongue out at him. Just get us back to Mandalore. We have a war to manage.